a very good evening, morning, and afternoon to all of you who have joined us today. And I'm very excited, as usual, to be here and part of this workshop. The week we had was filled with a roller coaster. We launched ProApp with Pro Mentor and Product Hunt. And I would say that Wednesday was the toughest competition we had out there. Although we managed to score the batch fourth as the fourth product of the day, and then we were like so excited. We had around 470 upvotes, and with just 10 upvotes, we went into the fourth position. Before that, we were into the third position. So, yeah, that's what new that happened with us in the last week. Now, coming back to this Saturday, let me take with you along with Victor on a journey of becoming a self-taught UX designer. Victor's work in the past has been at the intersection of people, brands, design, marketing, and products. He has helped amazing brands like Delphi, Primer Food, Byte, and with it,
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
welcome to the ProApp workshop. Thank you for doing this with us on a Saturday. The stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good day wherever you are. Where I am is still afternoon. I'm talking right here from, West Africa, Nigeria to be precise. And I'm really delighted to be taking you through this workshop. Once again, my name is Victor Obabatunde, and I help people live their best lives in various expressions. Of course, while I live mine, and I presently also, aside from what I do at Medistruct, I am the head of design at Byte. We are helping African businesses to accelerate their growth, right? And how are we helping them to accelerate their growth? We are building solutions that help them to solve day-to-day problems like inventory management, like sales recording, and the likes, right? And on top of it, because these businesses do things day to day, it then means that there has to be exchange of value. So we're not just building day-to-day solving day-to-day problems. We are also helping them to solve problems with payment, right? We are offering payment services. So that's like essentially what I do. I've done so much of the thing in design, marketing, product. I also write in my leisure time, right? Just let's get to it. So what we are discussing today is how to become not just a self-taught designer, but a very give me a sec. A well-grounded self-taught UX designer. And we first need to, if like what I wrote here, right? If we don't know what design really is, we can't be good architects of it, talk less of one that crafts amazing experiences. I think that is where we should start from. We should start from understanding what design really is. And in my opinion, I think design is very simple. There are a lot of explanations. There are a lot of theories about what design is, but design is essentially solving problem. Design is not the user interface that you see. Design is not the graphic that you see. Design is not the product itself if it is not solving problem, right? And solving problems and design can be tangible or intangible. For instance, mind mapping is has an element of design in it, but it is not tangible. And for tangible designs, you can think of your smartphone, you can think of your iPhone, you can think of your cup. Although we would be niching this down into like called digital product design, but it is very important that you understand what design in itself is, right? Design, the minimum definition for design is solving problem. If you are doing something and you are not solving a problem, it might not be able to fill in as design. We can call it art. We can call that art. But if it is design, it has to solve a problem. And before I move further, I forgot to let you know that this session might be, this session might be shorter than you think. I mean, so that would have like a lot of questions. I think that the best part of it would come in this question and answer side. I mean, so then now that we know what design is, we should also be able to look into what UX is. And UX is user experience. But what is user experience? What really is user experience? User experience is like the overall feeling a user has while interacting with a product, system, or service. Like I said earlier, user experience design is not just what you see, right? Design is problem solving. Design is helping people with ease of life, right? And UX, what does UX now mean? UX means the overall feeling. How do I feel? For instance, when I come to the ProApp website, there is this endearing copy that really makes me feel like, I mean, which is true, makes me feel like once I dabble into the set of materials, the set of videos, the set of content that is being created on this platform, in no time, I am able to also be a good designer. I mean, there's that sort of experience that you feel. And who now designs that experience? The person that designs the experience is the UX designer. I mean, so now who is a UX designer? Simply somebody who specializes in crafting and enhancing the user experience of a product, enhances the feeling. I mean, experiences can be good, can be bad. However, as UX designers, we want to craft experiences that are much more endearing, that it's attractive, that is that helps people to be able to do whatever they want to do, whatever they want to achieve. I mean, for instance, if I want to buy something on Amazon, the step that it takes me to register, search for the product, pay, and then get my goods. Let's assume a microphone for my podcast. Each and every of those processes has their own different experiences, and those experiences can be designed by a UX designer. There is this misconception that UX designers essentially should be UI designers. I mean, when I mean UI designers, those people that designs the screens that we see, the visuals that we see. But in itself, the true work of a UX designer is designing the experience from finding Amazon on maybe the website, on Google or on a website, to registering, to logging in, to searching for the product, to paying for the product, and to receiving. I mean, experience cuts across to the delivery guy, right? The experience cuts across all of these things. And the work of a UX designer is to be able to identify all of these steps and to be able to create an endearing and a very good feeling throughout this process. I mean, so UX is not, we don't design UX for just products. We design UX for systems, we design for services too, right? I mean, so for instance, let's use a delivery company, for example. That is a service, and let's assume that I want a delivery company to pick up a parcel for me and then send it to somewhere. The first time that I contact them to the time that they come to pick up the parcel, to the time that they deliver it, I mean, that is a service. And we can design experiences in service and in systems too. It's not just in product, it's not just in physical or digital products. We can also design experiences in systems and services. So you know what UX designers do now. Um, you know what they do. I think what you should know now is what they need to do their work. I mean, the soft skills, the hard skills, the tools, and I mean every other thing that we are still figuring out. I mean, because I like to say this, that um, we are we might be good at what we do, but we can never be the master of what we do because things evolve. When Nelson Norma was crafting the experience at Apple, and what we have now is different. I mean, there have been like an evolving study. I mean, so that's why I added that we will still I am still figuring out. I mean, so you will still also have to figure out and evolve, right? I mean, but let's zoom in on the soft skills, the hard skills, and the tools that you most likely, as a UX designer, would need to excel in your field. I mean, so the soft skills. So I need to send a disclaimer here, because the soft skills on its own is not going to, the soft skill on its own, it's not in isolation, right? The hard skill is not in isolation. The tools are not in isolation. And one of the mistakes that newbies, I mean, for lack of better terms, aspiring UX designers do is that they focus more on the tools. When I mean the tools, I mean the softwares, rather than the problem-solving skills themselves. Because this is UX, right? You necessarily don't need to know how to, while I advise that you learn how to use tools and softwares, these tools and the softwares themselves is not what makes you a UX designer. I mean, they don't make you a UX designer. It is the soft skills that really make, and the hard skills that really makes you a UX designer. And I am not going to tell you every of the soft skills and every of the hard skills and every of the tools that you need. I mean, because we have a lot of them. I'm just only going to touch on a few that I think are very important. And then you would definitely, once you dabble into like learning, you would definitely be able to figure out the other skills that you need. But one of the very important skills that I think that you need to be able to be a quality UX designer is empathy. And why is empathy important? I said there, if you don't wear their shoes, no matter how much you look, you can't see how much it hurts. It has to be felt. I mean, what does this mean? You have to be able to feel what the users feel. Let's use, for example, I work remotely. Let's use myself as an example. I work remotely, and because my work is kind of choked up, I work in different time zones, right? Because my work is very kind of choked up, I do not have time to cook. I do not have time to do some very important and basic things, right? If you want to solve a problem of food for me, you need to understand what my daily activities looks like. what my timing looks like, what my budget looks like, what my earning looks like. And you can only get this from a place of empathizing with me, right? I mean, so if you don't understand or know how to empathize, you most likely would not be solving problem for the users. You most likely will be solving the problem for yourself. And I think that in that case, you might be a bad, I mean, we have good UX designers, like I said, well-grounded UX designer. We have bad UX designs. Definitely, bad UX designs are not designed by animals, right? They are designed by designers themselves, which makes them a bad UX designers, right? I mean, so empathy is one thing that is very much important that you need to learn how to empathize with your users. And how do you empathize with your users? You have to be able to speak to them. You have to be able to be in their shoes. You have to be able to try what they try. You have to be able to learn how they work. You have to be able to see for what to see things for what they are. Um, Another thing that I think is very important is communication, right? You can't shout at the top of your voice and they still you can shout at the top of your voice and they still can't hear you. Why? You are not speaking the language they understand, right? I mean, so it is important that you understand your target audience per time. I mean, the market in India will definitely be different from the market in Australia, for example. What the people here would most likely be different from themselves, right? I mean, so you have to be able to learn how to communicate. I mean, you might be saying something and what you are saying is not you're not communicating, right? So communication is also a skill that you necessarily need to learn, because you definitely would be interacting with a lot of people. And I personally assume that empathy and communications work pari passu, right? They work pari passu. So it means that if you lack some basic communication skills, you might not be able to fully empathize with people. I mean, so communication is very, very important. Let's see what the next looks like. I mean, you need to be analytical. I mean, let me read what I wrote here. Seeing things for the way they are is good. But in this case, you have to see beyond. Take some time to analyze and see more than the surface, right? I mean, it might be tricky. There's something in UX design that you definitely will learn as you carry out user research, some other things in between, right? The whatever the customer tells you or whatever the user tells you might not be what the problem really is. I mean, there's this popular word that if the makers of cow had asked we humans that what do we want, we would have said that we want a faster horse, right? Which is true, logical. And in this case too, we need to be able to sit down and analyze every pointers, every metrics. We need to be able to see beyond whatever data we have, whatever conversation we've had with our users, because beyond all of these things that they've told us, beyond all of these things that are on the table, there are some other things that are quite hidden in those pointers, and we need to be able to be analytical about it. Let's see what the next looks like. Adaptability. I think, in my opinion, I think this is one of the really important skills that you need to have as a UX designer. you need to be able to adapt. I mean, because it's never smooth. Even the UX design process itself is not a smooth one. It's not a one-way thing. I mean, you empathize today. I mean, you do your user research. You are always coming back if you need be, right? When you follow the ideation, the process of UX, right? If need be, you need to come back. And adaptability is one thing that it is necessary. You need to be able to choose to run whenever you are set to run. Whenever you are set to walk, you need to walk. Whenever you are set to sit, you need to sit. So adaptability is one skill that you need to learn, because you work with cross-functional teams, you work with senior executives, you work with users in the market. You have to be able to adapt with different systems at different time, right? Collaboration. I don't think that anybody can thrive without collaboration, right? Because you can never work in isolation as a UX designer. You are working with engineers, you are working with designers. I mean, you are working with UI designers, right? You are working with graphic designers. You are working with marketers. You are working with C-level executives. You are working with users, right? I mean, so you need to learn how to collaborate with every of these people in different facets, in different facets, right? I mean, so collaboration is one thing that is necessary for you to learn. I said here that we don't work in isolation here, right? I mean, if you are that person that really loves to work in isolation, I am assuming that maybe you are in the wrong place, but you can give it a try, right? But we don't work in isolation here, be it partners, customers, colleagues. We always have someone to hang out with to get work done, right? I mean, so collaboration is key for UX designers. And I mean, there's so much to learn. Like I said earlier, right? This is not the whole of the skills that you need to learn. No, you need to learn a lot of things. But I think this is quite good for a start. And that's why I said, yeah, right? There's so much more to learn. But you can start with this and figure out others. I am also still figuring out others, right? Nelson Norma is still figuring out others. I mean, so you can start with this and we see where that gets us to. So let's talk about hard skills. Some of the hard skills that you need to learn are, I mean, one of it is UX research. There is no good UX without designing for your users. And a good way to knowing them is by conducting user research. User research is like investigation. I think that's like a proper word to explain that. User research is like investigation. It's like you can like what we said earlier, right? You can't do user research. You can see how this is sort of interwoven. You can't do user research without empathizing, right? You can't do user research without collaborating. You can't do user research without being analytical. You can see how some of those things that we've said earlier sort of cut into where we are presently. I mean, so and what is user research? User research is basically investigating and understanding your users, trying as much as possible to know what they need. Because there are sometimes that we make assumptions. It is doing user research that you would be able to validate all of these assumptions. You'll be able to know if whatever you've assumed is the right path to go. And I think that this is very important. There is no UX without user research. Trust me. I mean, there is no UX without user research. Let's talk about information architecture. You would also when I get to like the last part of these art skills, I would bring on something that is also a misconception, right? But let's just move on. Information architecture. What is information architecture? Information architecture is basically organizing and structuring content, data, information in the way that is intuitive and easy to navigate for users. For instance, let me use Amazon for example. There's a way Amazon arranges uh, their, their websites that you already know that this is where the search button is. I mean, the search button is not down below. Their art is not on the what's this on the right hand side. You already know where you most likely would find some of these basic things, and that's one of the things that you need to understand. How does your user assume that you would arrange information for them? And I think information architecture would settle that problem for you. And you definitely, because information architecture is quite similar to graphic design. When I mean graphic design, I mean, hierarchy. In graphic design, we have hierarchy, we have repetition, we have spacing, and we can say information architecture is like um a what's the right word here? It's like a written type of graphic design, right? A worded kind of graphic design, for lack of better terms, because information architecture also has like some sort of elements of graphic design. For instance, you are organizing something, you are organizing information, right? In graphic design, that would be like spacing, that would be like alignment. You are structuring. Structuring would be like spacing. Organizing would be like alignment, right? I mean, so you need to be able to understand how users wants to see information, how their mental model works, and then you are able to tailor a number of these things into how they already think. User journey mapping. Mapping out the user journey and interaction with the product to identify pain points, opportunities for enhancement. Yes, I've mentioned this earlier. I made an analogy of I wanting to get a podcast microphone from Amazon. In this case, a user journey mapping would be like, where did I see Amazon first? I mean, I saw Amazon from searching on Google, Shaw podcast, USB podcast mic, right? And it popped up a lot of, what's it called? It brought a lot of websites, and I click Amazon, right? I mean, the journey mapping starts from Google, where I search for the microphone, and then takes me to Amazon. Then I register. Then after registering, then I logged in. After logging in, it takes me to like what I said on Google, and then I put to cart, and then I input my my card details, and then I purchase, and then they sent me an email. And then, I mean, a lot of those things is the user journey mapping. And then you need to be able to craft the best experiences from wherever the user is finding you to wherever, to their destination of receiving their goods, right? I mean, so you need to be able to understand how to break these processes into user journey maps, right? Um, Another thing that is very important, that I know, not that I feel, I know it's very important, is usability testing. You need to be able to learn how to test your designs, how effective they are. I mean, because at the end of the day, yes, you might have carried out user research, talk to your users, done these ideas, and you get to the design and you are done with your design. You also need to be able to validate that all the effort and all the work that you've put into designing this product is not to waste. And how are you sure about that? You test with users. And this is where, and if whatever you've done is not solving the problem, you have to go back. And this is where adaptability that I mentioned earlier comes in. I mean, you have to be able to adapt, and usability testing is like one of the things that that brings in adaptability. I mean, because if you have not solved the problem for if you have not solved the problem for people, you have to go back and make sure that you are solving the problem for them. Product psychology. The study of this is definitely the study of how customers behave, right? Their emotions, and informs their purchasing decision. For instance, I love black a lot. And if you would want to sell me a sneakers, if you would want to sell me a headphone, if you would want to sell me something, you might be able to get a hold of me if the color is black, right? I mean, so some of these product psychology, colors, feel, are pointers and are things that informs our decision, are things that we can tweak and be able to craft like a very good product. Another skill that I think you necessarily need to learn is wireframing, right? And wireframing is basically using tools like Sketch, Figma, Adobe XD, and a whole lot of other prototyping software to like create low fee and high fee wireframes and interacting prototypes. And why is this important? This is important because you essentially would need to test some of the things that you need wireframing and prototyping to be able to test. In some instance, I mean, there are a lot of ways to test without prototyping on Figma, Sketch, and XD. I mean, you can use paper prototypes and the likes, but because of where we are and the age that we are, I mean, technology has solved some of these problems for us, and it makes things easier, right? And so I essentially think that learning how to wireframe and prototype is a very invaluable skill that you essentially need to learn. Another thing, yes, this is where the controversy comes in. I intentionally put visual design at the last. I mean, because you necessarily do not have to be a good visual designer or a UI designer to be a UX designer. And this is very tricky, right? Because of the world that we have today, I mean, we have the work of a UI and a UX designer together. I mean, we understand why that is. However, we are talking about UX now. We're talking about user experience. Why aesthetics can be a part of user experience, right? There are sometimes that the problem that you want to solve is not the problem of functionality, it's the problem of aesthetics, right? And a UI designer should be able to help you to solve that problem. But majority of the work of a UX designer is to be able to help users feel to be able to engineer the feeling of users, which visual design does not really top the rank, right? This is very controversial, right? And this is, but I would advise, right? If you can learn, and I've listed it here, I mean, this is one of the skills that you should learn. It gives you an advantage. But I am just saying that you essentially do not, you can be low on visual design skills and be a very good UX designer. And you can be very good with visual design skills and be a very bad UX Nah, I mean, UX design does not sit on visual designs alone. It sits on a lot of things like psychology, mind mapping, and some other things that I've mentioned earlier. But I would advise you that learning visual design would be an advantage. I mean, it would help you to stand out, because and majority of the jobs in the market puts UI and UX design together. It's hard for you to find, except for big multinationals and the likes, it's hard for you to find them separated. I mean, and an organization would prefer to hire somebody that has these two skills, UI and UX design. I mean, so I would advise that you learn visual design. And like I said earlier, right, there is so much more to learn, right? You can start from these and figure out other things. I mean, there's a lot of things that you still have to learn, but I think that this is a very good place. This is a very good place to start. I mean, for the tools, right? We are almost done. For the tools, Figma. I mean, Figma is a tools that you can learn. Figma is like um, is a design and semi-prototyping tool that helps you to create UI screens and then helps you to be able to 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 do a lot of design, right? Figma um is basically a design tool for you to be able um to to do your work as a designer. A second, please, as a designer. Another tool that you might want to learn is Sketch. I mean, Sketch is a vector-based design tool for creating wireframes, mock-ups, and prototypes for digital products. And Figma, like I said earlier, is a collaborative design tool that allows real-time collaboration, prototyping, and design systems creation. What Figma allows you to do is that it allows you to be able to work with other people. For instance, I work remotely and I work with designers scattered across the globe. I mean, I can, on the same file, I can work with a designer that is in New York, that is in the United Kingdom, and a designer that is in the United States, and a designer that is in India using Figma. I am not sure Sketch has that functionality itself, but I've heard that there is a plugin to do that on Sketch. That's for that. Adobe XD. Adobe XD is a similar design tool to Figma. I mean, it's a design tool by Adobe for creating wireframe, interactive prototype, and user interface. As of now, Adobe XD does not have like a collaborative tool. You cannot collaborate with people outside of like your place. But I think that there's also a plugin that helps you to be able to do that. For InVision is basically a prototyping tool that allows you as a UX designer to create interactive and animated prototypes for user testing and feedback. I mean, this is very important for your prototyping and testing for user feedback. Miro. Miro is essentially a collaborative whiteboarding platform. I mean, although Figma also have FigJam for a similar thing. I mean, but this is also like one of the tools that people use, collaborating whiteboarding platform for ideation, brainstorming, and for journey mapping. Yes, there is really so much to learn. I mean, there is so much to do, there's so much to learn. And I feel like this is a very good place to start. This is a very good place to take things up. We've gotten to a place where you can ask me anything, and I think I have a self-taught um um material that has links to soft to articles, to resources and the likes. I mean, it's one of my colleagues that created it. I might be able to share with ProApp. I mean, take permission from them, share with ProApp, and maybe when this video is up, they can share with the community. And I mean, I know that it will be very beneficial. It's a very comprehensive guide. I mean, to a lot of resources, a lot of articles, a lot of videos. I know that if you are able to sit down with, I think it takes about 3 4 months. If you are able to sit down with this resource, I'm very sure that you would be able to call yourself a well-grounded UX designer. At this point, I would be taking a lot of questions, as much as we can take. I'm delighted to take them. Yeah, thank you.
Mm. Thank you so much. And yeah, definitely you can share the links with us, or we can have, as soon as the video goes up, we can share it with the community. We can send out the emails. That's okay. Also fine with that. So no problem.
That's
Great. Cool. Let's start with the questions.
Um, I mean, so I think the first question that I'm seeing here is, I mean, how do I manage time and prioritize? Can you recommend 3 most valuable
Most valuable
resources?
resources.
I mean, so I think that you first need to understand yourself. You also need to understand your the results that you want. I mean, because prioritization is, I won't be able to give you like a box answer, right? But prioritization itself is supposed to be dependent on your need and not your want. I mean, for instance, you need to be a quality, well-grounded UX designer by the end of the year. If that is your need, you know that you necessarily need to prioritize that. So I think the first thing that you need to do is take an inventory of what you want to do, and then put them in a case of priority. I mean, must do, should do, can do, I necessarily not have to do. And then in that way, you'll be able to, you know, that must do, you must do it. Should do comes before can do. Can do comes before don't have to do. I mean, so I think that's like a way to be able to prioritize your what's it called? Whatever you want to do. I know that I don't have like too much context to this, but I hope that I have been able to like answer in a way that you are able to draw out some value from the answer. And for resources, right? I think one of the people that you should follow as a designer on YouTube is Chris Do, right? I think he has like a lot of resources. I mean, it doesn't have to be just prioritization. He has a lot of resources on pricing, a lot of resources on a lot of things, right? I mean, so that's like that's an answer for that. Do you want me to go to the next?
I'll just share the link to the YouTube channel in the chat. Great.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
I think next one is from Dilip. What tips do you have for structuring and pacing your learning when self-teaching UX design? Suggest a few tips on the need for a plan and timeline when it comes to self-teaching.
Nice. I think this is a very good question. And it's also similar to like the first question that was asked, right? I mean, you need to understand where you are as a person. For instance, do you have a full-time job presently, or are you currently not doing anything? Are you a student? I mean, you need to be able to put all these things into consideration to be able to pace your learning. I mean, because uh, um, if you are in school, I feel like I mean, or if you are working, I assume that your work at this moment I am assuming, and I might be wrong, right? I assume that your work at this moment might take much of your time because, I mean, you need to put food on your table, right? So you need to put into cognizance the time that you have. For instance, the resources that I am going to be sharing with you, um, already paced it in months, right? But I don't advise that you follow it the way it is. I mean, because I think that the person that created it for people that does not have anything doing, right? They are learning this full time. So I think what I can say is identify where you are, identify what time you have, and then now break it down into hours or daily hours. For instance, I am doing UX design learnings 2 hours per day for a week. And then you would be able to know how much time you need to like put into learning. And then, I mean, I feel like that would be a better way to go about it. But for me to give you a timeline for Kuma, I hope I pronounced that well. The timeline for you will be different for somebody else, right? I mean, so would be different for somebody who has a full-time job, or somebody who does not have a full-time job, or somebody who is in school, or somebody, I mean, so the timeline will be different. But I think a best way to approach it is identify what you are presently doing and now look at what time you can put into it, right? Based on your schedule. Schedules are different. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. I think we had one question in the chat. We'll take that before we take the Q&A, else we'll miss it. Uh, it's from Yasmas. Hi, my question is, as a beginner, how do I get a job?
As a beginner, how do you get a job? I think that the easiest way to get a job as a beginner is to volunteer. That's my opinion, right? I mean, because the reason why I answered this way is because the person didn't say a paid job, right? And as a beginner, because of the kind of work that we do, it's not a degree kind of work. It's not a certificate kind of work. It's a tangible kind of work. I mean, people want to see the result of what you've done. And if you're a beginner that do not have a portfolio, that do not have track record, I'm sorry, you most likely would not get the kind of job that you are looking for. But the easiest way to get a job that can now get you the kind of job that you are looking for is to volunteer. You definitely would have a friend that has a project that they are working on. You can volunteer to be their UX designer, add that work to your portfolio, and then I hope that you will be able to get the kind of job that you are looking for. But as a beginner, the easiest way to get a job is to volunteer.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Cool. Can you suggest some creators and platforms by which we can learn UX by our own?
I mean, you have ProApp. I mean, you have ProApp. And I mentioned Chris Do, right?
Right.
And also, because we are in different, I mean, ProApp is a global product, right? So I feel like you will be able to see diverse people, diverse creators that sort of appeal to you, right? I mean, because
Right.
you essentially, it's easier for me to learn from somebody that I can connect with, right? I can mention designers and creators that you might not, yes, you would later connect with them, but it might take time. I mean, but for a beginner, I think that you can try platforms like ProApp. You can look at ADP list. I mean, you can see
Right.
mentors from ADP list and some other places. And also, I think Chris Do is a very good person to follow. I mean, he's not a product designer or a UX designer, he's a brand designer, but the guy has like a wealth of knowledge that it's beyond, I think it's beyond himself, right?
Okay. If someone comes from print media and want to be a UI UX designer, then what problem need to encounter from print media mindset?
Mm. I think I love this question. I mean, because I personally used to be a brand designer. I
Hmm.
mean, so but I think it's the way you see it. For me, I I saw it as an advantage. I mean, because you do print media, you really do not need to dabble into visual design learning from the scratch. I mean, it's an advantage. Visual design is an advantage. For instance,
Hmm.
people that often, this is a bias, and I stand to be corrected. People that starts UX design from a zero design knowledge level, um, cannot compete with people that started UX
Hmm.
design from a brand design kind of level. I mean, because they already understand the basics of brand design, they can use color very well. You can use color as a psychology, you can use spacing for psychology, you can use feeling for psychology, right? I mean, so I want you to see it as an advantage, and then try as much as possible to overlap. When I mean overlap, it might be hard for you to detach yourself. You don't even need to detach yourself, right? It might be hard for you to switch to UI UX design or product design or UX design as the case may be, but you can still be doing your print media and then using that skill, that design skill that you learned from your print media to do UI design. I think this is the best way. I might be wrong. I mean, this is just my opinion, right? I think for you that you are already a good print design, try as much as possible to do UI design. I mean, UI design is
Hmm.
not UX design. UI design is like the interface, right? Recreate websites, recreate apps, right? That way, it helps you to gather confidence to learn how experiences are really being crafted. I think that should work. I hope it does.
Right. I think that that's the best advice because then it would be easier from UI to UX because you have started understanding psychology behind the interfaces as well.
Exactly, exactly.
Right. Cool. What are the internships and beginning jobs available for UI UX designer and how we grab them as freshers?
I think that there are no one way to all of these things, but I feel like one thing that I always advise people to do is they should be confident in they should be confident in the level that they are in, right? I mean, you are a beginner, be confident in that level that you are. Share your work on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and try as much as possible to build a sort of reputation online. And also don't be shy to enter to send cold emails, right? On LinkedIn. I think those are some of the ways that you can grab. I don't think there are jobs available, but in quotes, there are no jobs available, right? But you can find a way to um to make employers feel like they would miss out on you if they don't hire you. And one way to do that is send a cold email to the CEO of one company that you are eyeing. Tell them that you are willing to learn and work for free. A reasonable organization would not let you work for free, right? But you showing that being enthusiastic about learning and growing would let them see you as an asset, right? And want to take a chance on you. So I feel like you might not be able to see open roles everywhere on LinkedIn, especially beginner roles. But one way to get some of these roles is to be loud about your don't be shy about your progress, right? Grow from like grow publicly. Let me use that word. Grow publicly. Let people see your progress publicly. That way, you would even have the confidence to slide into DMs and ask for internships that are not being advertised. And I hope that you get one.
Cool. Okay, please share with us your most challenging problem you faced and solved in your UX career.
I think my most challenging problem is crafting it is still a UX problem, but not really in my UX career, right? It's a life kind of problem, right? Because I do so many things, right? I design, brand, products, I write, I do marketing, I do photography, and a lot of these things. It is hard for me when you ask me, what do I do? I don't like to say that I am a designer. And that's so the most challenging thing was for me to find something that ties together every of the things that I do. And I'm glad that I have found something that is still in the works, right? And that's why I say that I help people live their best lives in various expressions as much as I live mine, right? So doing brand design, I am helping people live their best lives. Doing product design, helping them live their best lives. Marketing, I'm marketing good products to people to live their best life. Doing photography, I'm taking people's picture for them to be happy, living a happy life, living their best life. So maybe this is the most challenging thing that I can remember. But trust me, there would always be challenges. There will always be challenges. Permit me to say, for my faith, it's even something that was clearly written in the book that I believe in, right? That there will be tribulations and there will be trials, right? But you would overcome it.
And I think the challenge that you mentioned about yourself not able to identify, like, what do you call yourself? I think that challenge does not need to be solved for you. That should remain
Yeah,
unsolved. Then I think that's the
yeah,
time when we start figuring out new roles and new challenges. Once we put a label at it, we sort of restrict ourselves. Hey, I'm a UX designer.
exactly, exactly,
So
exactly.
I think that's the best advice for today, I would say.
Oh, I'm glad I said it.
Cool. I think we're moving to the last question we have here. Do you know any sites that gives case studies for beginners to practice on real life scenarios as a UI UX designer? Like starting from the interview, researching, empathizing, wireframing, creating, testing, developing, etc. Speak to Pro Mentor on ProApp. And now over to you, Victor.
Yeah, so like I've always said, ProApp is like one of the resources that you have. And I feel like for case studies, Dribble, you can look at Dribble, you can look at Behance, and there are quite a number of I'm trying to look for some of those websites so that you can be able to, I can just drop them. do you want to give me like a minute to look
Yeah,
for
sure.
okay, like group goodbrief.io. Let me put it in the chat. I think you can be able to work on, you can be able to work on projects. I mean, they help you to it's an AI powered platform that just give you like briefs on stuff to do. I think
Got it.
I have quite a number of them, but I can't find them right now. I think I have like two. But I think um good brief is like a very good one. Um, if I find other ones, I would share.
I
But I
think
mean, Dribble,
good.
Behance, Google itself, right? Google.
Hmm. And I think ChatGPT would do that for you now. Like just if you speak and help stick,
Exactly.
that's the easiest way. That's why I said stick to Pro Mentor. We have trained it. So I think you'll find the case studies that are
Exactly.
more adaptable of different industries, and you'll save time in researching. So I think just refer to ChatGPT or ProMentor and you'll just get the exact studies. But by the way, a good brief is something which we in our organization also use when it comes to internal small competitions that we have. So for that we use good brief. So that's definitely a good source to look into. So, Victor, before we wind up, one
Exactly.
question that I asked from all our speakers: how did your journey into design as a discipline started? What motivated you to pick this side?
So I think when I was, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hello,
Oh,
we can
nice.
hear you,
I
Victor.
mean, so I
Yeah.
think when I was quite small, when I was quite small, I wanted to study pharmacy in the university, and I I sort of didn't pass my exam at that point in time. And there's this my senior in school that was already studying industrial design in the university. And because I didn't like mathematics, right? I actually asked him, hope this course I would not do so much of mathematics. And he said, no, I would not do so much of mathematics. That is why I chose industrial design in school. And because I am a very conscious person, I had started learning how to design before I entered the university. I mean, so that is like how my journey started. But prior that time, I had also learned photography. I mean, so that is how my journey started as a photographer to a designer, learned design in school, and then grew to become um, a an head of design where I currently work.
Great, great. I think most of the designers are not typically from the design background. They have learned the art, as in they have not done any formal education. Uh, we have learned the art. We have uh, understood how users actually think and how the products should actually function, and like taking a step behind and just understanding what the real problem is. I think a combination
Exactly.
of all this is something you just need to learn even to start into design, because tools and everything are the easiest part of the process. You can learn them very easily, but
Exactly.
right, but to crack the code, uh, for that you need to actually understand and get into the the psychological aspects, the research aspects of design altogether.
Exactly.
Cool. We don't have any further questions, but I think, Victor, you helped uh, a lot of students, a lot of learners out there today. And thank you so much for that. I personally enjoyed speaking to you and listening to the entire workshop. So thank you so much for doing this. We'll try
Thank
to
you
do it
very much.
again sometime.
Definitely, I would definitely be glad to do it again.
Thank you so much and have a great weekend ahead. And by the way, guys, I've added Victor's LinkedIn profile to the chat. So you can even bug him after the workshop as well. Just connect with
That's
him
fine.
and he'll be, happy to, and you can learn a lot from his design journey, I would rather say. So thank you so much, Victor. I would rather say it was a great workshop. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, bye.
Bye.